The purpose of life seems to be to acquaint a man with himself, and whatever course of action he engages in reacts upon and illuminates the recesses of his own mind. Thus, friends seem to be only mirrors to draw out and explain to us ourselves, and that which draws us nearer to our fellow man is that the deep heart in one answers the deep heart in another, that we find we have a common nature, one life which runs through all individuals and which is indeed divine. And this week's opening quote comes from Ralph Waldo Emerson. Welcome to Surviving the Matrix, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maxwell Igan. It's a pleasure to be with you once again, and I will be your host for the next hour. The search for life's divinity, the search for the divinity of ourselves, seems to be an endless pursuit of most people, and something that many people perceive to be unattainable. Many people simply don't perceive themselves to be divine. They see that position relegated to certain religious deities. This is, of course, because they've been programmed into these beliefs. But the reality is that life itself is divine. And when we can discover our own divinity and get rid of the programs we're running, such as the nationalistic and religious and economic and social programs we're running, then we're going to find remedy for the situations that we face. And what is nationalism anyway, folks? Nationalism really is racism. Nationalism is believing that your spot on the earth is better than everybody else's spot on the earth, and that the people that live on your spot of the earth are somehow more privileged or more deserving than others. That's all nationalism is, folks. It's a form of bigotry, and it's certainly racism. And our problems really when looking at the world is the fact that we've divided the world into different countries and different races and different species and different economies and people with different ethnic idiosyncrasies, and we've forgotten that we're all really one human family. I mean, all the wars that we're fighting, folks, they're all unnecessary. What's going on in Palestine and Israel is completely unnecessary over the ownership of land which you can't possibly own. What's going on in Ukraine is completely unnecessary. Every war we've ever had on the planet has been completely and utterly unnecessary and has been a construct. It's all been created by politicians. It's all been created by banking cartels. It's been created by the people who manipulate things and run things and just drag the public along with them in whatever ridiculous harebrained scheme or depopulation agenda they may have. And it's easy to drag the public into supporting these things, folks. I mean, look at the Middle East as a perfect example. Look what happened in Iraq with this whole fake war they had over there and Al-Qaeda and all the threat and all the rubbish that they sold us. And then just as they're getting ready to pull the troops out, suddenly ISIS comes onto the scene and we've got to push more troops back in there and actually escalate the war that they claimed a couple of months before they were going to de-escalate. Now it's escalated massively right when they needed it. And this is simply because of public outcry, folks, because everybody wanted the war to stop. And they don't want the war to stop. They want it to keep going. So what they do is they get a new terrorist organization and inject a new threat into the area so they can push more troops into the area and continue depopulating the way they've been doing. Only now there is a huge public outcry to actually go in there and to escalate the war. And don't forget, folks, these are the same people that were screaming out for the war to stop a few months ago. Now they're screaming out to escalate the conflict because the new boogeyman has arrived on the scene. And not only is it all theatre for the masses, but it's all based on this erroneous concept that we are all different from each other, that all of our countries are real, that all of our races are real, that our religions somehow have supremacism over other religions. It's all completely ridiculous, and it's all somebody else's ideas that have all been superimposed over people's minds. It doesn't matter what religion you belong to, it's somebody else's idea of reality that they've written down in a book and you've taken on as your reality. But what it's doing is preventing you from ever truly expressing the art of yourself and experiencing the world from your unique perspective, free from outside interference. And that's the thing, folks, is that all of these ideas are actually interference in your own perspective, because all of them are other people's versions of reality that you're taking on as your own. And think about it, what thoughts are you having? Are they your own thoughts, or are they the thoughts of someone else that you read in a book? If you believe in God, if you believe in an ultimate creator, what is your perspective of the creator? What is your relationship with the creator? What is your connection to the creator and your communication with the creator? Is it yours, or is it somebody else's? Is it somebody else's idea? Are the thoughts you're having about your connection to the creator things that you have experienced and discovered for yourself on your own? Or are they somebody else's ideas that have been put into your mind so that now you believe that's what your connection would be? Because we all have our own connection, folks, and we don't need somebody else's idea to get in the way. I've had so many Muslims tell me that a lot of the teachings that I present to people sound like they come from the Quran, and they've told me that I should become a Muslim because my teachings are so much like Islam. And I say to them, well, if that's the case, and I know this without reading the Quran, then why do I need the Quran? And I've had many Christians come and tell me the same sort of things. Many teachings that I give, they sound like they're out of the Bible. Why don't I become a Christian? I say, well, if I've got this information without the book, why do I need the book? Because the book is somebody else's idea. And we all have our own connection to source. We all have our own connection to the mind of God, whatever you want to call it to be. I simply call it source. I call it the conscious universe or whatever. I mean, I firmly believe that the universe itself is conscious. I think the energy that makes up all matter is itself conscious. And I've gathered this perspective and I've formed this opinion through experiences that I've had on my own, not through anything that I've read in a book. And I've found that if I look at reality from this perspective, it becomes very easy to understand, and it becomes very easy to see how it's all about energy flow, and how that energy flow is manipulated by people's belief in things such as nationalism and social and economic programs and religious programs that they're running. And again, folks, all of these things are other people's versions of reality. Imagine yourself being born on an island and there was no one to explain to you what reality was, or what your connection to the divine was, or what your connection to any ultimate creator was. What would you discover about reality for yourself if you weren't looking at it with a preconceived notion of what it is? What would you form from your own opinions? Just the fact that you don't have a preconceived notion immediately opens your mind up to an amazing amount of potential discoveries. But if you have a preconceived notion, then you're always looking for discoveries which will reinforce your belief of what reality should be. But very often that belief is something that has been garnered from somebody else. And in this sort of a situation, the thoughts we are having are not our own, and the way we are analysing any situation or analysing reality is via the perspective that's been offered to us by somebody else. It's not something that's come from our own creative input into the moment. And I think that's what it's all about, folks. It's all about us creating with the tools that we've been given and doing so to the best of our potential. And I think that if we can look at the world that way and put down all of this nationalistic rubbish, then we're going to find that we don't need war, we don't need any of the problems that we've got, we don't need to be supporting this economic system, we don't need to be doing anything that we're doing. You know, the human race at the moment, it's like a madhouse. It's honestly like a madhouse. There's no need for any of these wars to be fought, and people defending their states and defending their beliefs and defending all this stuff by killing other people, it makes absolutely no sense at all. You're not going to solve anything by killing people. And the world is so different to what people think it is, folks. The world isn't even overpopulated. It's just badly managed, and all of this is done by design as well. But I think that if we can change our perspective, we're going to see that we can fix this situation very easily. But we've got to stand up and call a spade a spade. We really do. We've got to start looking at how this mechanism is being run and stop being politically correct when we deal with it. That's why I did a show like I did last week and pointed all those fingers at Israel for what it's doing. But again, folks, not at the Jewish people, just at the mechanism that is Israel. And Israel is a mechanism run by banking cartels that's being used to destabilize the world under the smokescreen of the Holocaust and the plight of the Jewish people. And it's an absolute sham. It really is. You can't own Israel. You can't own any country. You're just here for a little while, and what exists on the planet is just people. And what we're facing on this earth is a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions. It really is. All of these situations, folks, discussing and debating who's the good guys and who's the bad guys in the Ukraine conflict and what the strategic positions are and all this sort of stuff. What's going on there is that people are being killed by other people. That's what's going on. Forget about the countries and forget about the political reasons and all this sort of stuff. What's happening is that people are killing other people, and that's what's happening in Israel and Palestine as well. And the people don't want war. The people want to live in peace. It's all of these corrupt leaders that do all of this rubbish and concoct all of this bullshit and sell it to the public through this controlled media. But it's all rubbish, folks, because nobody wants war. Nobody wants bombs falling on their houses. No one wants to go and drop bombs on other people's houses. If these leaders want to go and have a war, they should grab a hammer each, go meet in a room somewhere and have their war. There's no need to involve anybody else. There's no reason to be bombing civilians and bombing other countries. All of this stuff that the United States is carrying out against ISIL or pretending they're carrying out against ISIL. There's no need to go and bomb Syria to fight ISIL. There's no need to go and bomb Syria even if you want to remove Assad. You don't bomb people to achieve anything. You don't take control of another country by bombing it and killing all of its people. It doesn't make any sense. This is nonsensical. Wars achieve nothing. All they do is allow a night of wet dreams to sociopathic bankers and politicians. That's the only purpose wars serve. These people do them because they revel in death and bloodshed and control, and they just like to do bad stuff. And what we've got to do, folks, in order to combat it is realise that we don't have to actually do any of this. We don't have to participate in this ridiculous economic system, these ridiculous social systems, and we certainly don't have to do what our government says, because our government are a bunch of sociopaths who are doing very, very bad things, and if you want evidence of that, well, Exhibit A, the Earth, Exhibit B, the Edward Snowden information that was released, Exhibit C, the information that's appeared on WikiLeaks. And all these people are debating whether these are good guys or bad guys. Forget about it, folks. Look at the information. The information indicates that we've got a bunch of sociopathic criminal scumbags running the country. And it's happening because we're disunited. We're following all of these social and religious and ethnic programs. We're forgetting that there's just one human family on this planet. All the lines on maps were drawn by these sociopaths in order to divide us. And all of the religions, they just offer you a perspective. They offer you an idea of what your connection to the Creator could be, but it's up to you to discover that connection for yourself. And ultimately, folks, if you're going to kill other people to defend your religion, then your religion's full of shit. Doesn't matter which one it is. If it promotes killing anybody for any reason, then the bottom line is that it's full of shit. The whole concept of killing people in the name of God, killing people because it's what God wants, what a lame, brain-dead, stupid, demented concept to even entertain. Honestly, folks, what possesses these people? Well, I don't know. But of course, what possesses them is their belief in someone else's version of reality and the fact that they've never experienced it for themselves without a foregone conclusion of what it should be that's been provided to them by whatever book they happen to have read. It's all these foregone conclusions that people have and all the self-mindlessness that people have, because their minds are usually controlled by their beliefs, which are usually controlled by what they've read or what's been instilled into them by the television or somebody else. It's all of these sorts of things that have created the problem, that have created the lack of humanity that we see, that has caused us to view all of these humanitarian crises around the planet as being political crises or economic crises, but they're not. They're humanitarian crises. The situation in Gaza, this is a humanitarian crisis of absolute epic proportions, like we've never seen in a so-called civilized country before. We've seen things like this where there's been starving millions that have been living in camps in places like Rwanda, but this is a city, this is a walled-in, besieged city that is suffering the most intense brutality and the most intense inhumanity and the most brutal collective punishment at the hands of Israel, while the international community remains blind because they view it as an issue between Israel and the Palestinians, when really what it is a humanitarian issue. It's people killing other people and torturing other people, torturing children in the case of Gaza Strip, mainly children in Gaza Strip. And this is happening because people are viewing things from a distorted perspective. They're viewing things from a religious or ethnic perspective rather than seeing it for what it is, which is a humanitarian crisis. And because it's such a blatant humanitarian crisis right in our faces, it's also a huge opportunity for the human race to step up to the plate. It really is, folks. It's a huge opportunity for the human race to rediscover their humanity by simply standing up, calling a spade, and seeing things for what they are and naming them for what they are. And forgetting all the rubbish and the disinformation and the lies that are fed to you by the media and the politicians, forgetting about the economy. It's not about the economy. The economy's fiction. To hell with the economy. It's a bunch of digits on the screen.